Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. Hey, I've got a super secret Saurus strategy to share with you today. This may not be a huge secret, but I didn't know about it until a few weeks ago. Maybe about a month or two ago, this was debated on AOS Coach's Discord in the Seraphon section. Go check that out. Lots of good Seraphon talk going on there in his Discord. But this is a fun one. And when I saw it, I realized, I hadn't considered this before. Valis had sent this along to me in Discord, and so I want to pass it on to you because this is a really fun strategy here. What I'm talking about is Vengeful Defender. Now, we all know what this does. This is a really good coalesced Saurus command trait. We have to put this on our general, who's Saurus, and what it allows our army to do is get some movement out of the movement phase. So we get this at the start of the hero phase, we get some movement. So let's read through this real fast. At the start of your hero phase, if this general is wholly within your territory, you can pick this general and up to 2 other friendly Saurus or Kroxigor units wholly within 12 of this general to each make a normal move. Now here's the big thing. It doesn't actually say they have to be different Saurus units. So you can actually pick the same Saurus or Kroxigor unit to move in the hero phase. What I mean by that is your general selects, let's say, an Agradon unit. It can move. If that unit is still wholly within 12 of this general, he can pick them again to move again. So you get 2 of those, and it doesn't say different. So that's pretty cool. I didn't realize this until a little bit ago. That makes Vengeful Defender even more useful than it was before. This was already my default choice when I'm playing Saurus. Even more so now because it opens up some pretty fun combinations here. So you might be saying, well, there's things that say you can't do that. There's actually FAQs that say this is the correct reading of it. We see here in one of the FAQs that it says, some abilities stipulate that you pick a certain number of units to be affected by that ability. When this is the case, can I pick the same unit several times? The answer is yes, unless the ability specifically states otherwise. And I pulled up another Seraphon ability here that shows you one option that specifically indicates different units. And that's Comet's Call, one of our favorite spells ever. And it does say it has to be different units that are selected. So this is one that follows that FAQ that shows it has to be something different. But Vengeful Defender, you'll notice it never says it has to be different. It says up to 2 other friendly Saurus or Kroxigor units wholly within 12 of this general. So very interesting there, and that it appears we can use Vengeful Defender twice. So as you're going into this, think about Vengeful Defender. Sometimes I've been opting out of this with, putting a Slann or a Skink as general, but, well, not a Skink, but a Slann as a general. This just solidifies Vengeful Defender even more. It's already my default choice. I like this a whole lot better, doing it twice. So what does that do for our army? Agradons, they already have a move of 8. If we add 2 Vengeful Defender moves to that, they're really, really trucking. Now, maybe you don't need Agradons to move that fast. I have found 1 Vengeful Defender on Agradon is usually enough to get them where I need to go. But if you're going turn 1 and they've lined up, the opponent's lined up way far at the back, you can hit them pretty much anywhere you want to. So if we move first time 8 inches, as long as we're still wholly within 12 of our general and we haven't moved our general out of our terrain, don't do that, then you get another Vengeful Defender move, another 8 inches. In the movement phase, you still get to move, even if you Vengeful Defendered. You move again another 8. Then, if you've gotten Heavenly Frenzy, a spell from a Skink Wizard, we'll talk about that here in a second, that allows you to run and charge. You also get +1 from your Musician to run and charge, so you have another, a little bit more movement there if you need it. And then a charge of up to 12 +1. So an Agradon's threat range is somewhere between 34 and 44 inches if you use this combination. That's scary because these things, they appear slow at 8 inches, but you add all these combinations together and they're going to go anywhere on the board. That's effectively anywhere on the board. We could even make them fly. We'll get to that on the next slide. But as Agradons, I think, can already move pretty well with Vengeful Defender. Usually 16 plus run and charge if you need it is more than enough to get where they need to go. I think what really benefits from a double move here is either Kroxigor or Saurus Warriors. Kroxigor and Saurus Warriors, they only move 5, which is very slow for these guys. Kroxigor, one of their biggest limiting factors is they can't issue command points to themselves, which still is not fun, but just their slow movement. So now we can move them a lot faster. Kroxigor look a lot better to me here. Now, unfortunately, I still like Agrodons better, but if you want to run Kroxigor, this is a great tactic for them. Because with this double move from Vengeful Defender, their threat range is now 23 to 33 inches. You can easily get these guys across the board turn 1 and into the opponent. Same with Saurus Warriors. Now, I would be playing these Saurus Warriors a little bit differently, but they are fast, real fast now. 5-inch move Vengeful Defender, another 5-inch move from the second Vengeful Defender, 5-inch move in the movement phase, run and charge, and they have a threat range of 25 to 35 inches. What makes that unique is they're not going to do as much damage as the Agrodons and Kroxigor, but that is an incredible roadblock that you can throw into your opponent's lines turn 1. If you can throw 40 to 60 wounds into their face that they're going to have to deal with that are at -1 damage, and you can buff up pretty well, that makes for a scary time for your opponent. So this is the combination I'm really looking forward to trying, is throwing some Saurus Warriors across the board. We do have some buffs that we can add to this, but here's the thing. If you're Vengeful Defendering twice, you do have to watch out about all your ranges, because all of these Vengeful Defender moves happen at the start of the hero phase. So start of the hero phase, you do all the other Seraphon stuff you're normally going to do, and then you start moving. You've got your Sorcerer Kroxigor unit either moving once or twice, and then your general is going to move. But then your spell casting is important here because you don't want to get out of range of whatever's casting. So you do have to be a little bit more aggressive on your Slon deployment or your Astrolith or your Starseer, whatever is going to be doing your casting. You will need to be up close to those units that are going to be moving because you don't want to get outside of those range as they move at the start of the hero phase. Luckily, a lot of our spells actually have decent range. So Empowered Celestite from Slon has already a base range of 18. And then if we have the Astrolith Banner, which you will, you're adding 6 inches to that anyway. So that's a great range. You don't even have to worry about that. If you're wanting to do it in Empowered Celestite, you have plenty of range even after they've made those 2 Vengeful Defender moves. Same for Heavenly Frenzy, which allows us to get that run and charge. It has a base range of 18 inches. We're pretty much always adding 6 inches to our spell casting because of the Astrolith, and that allows us to get 24-inch range on this spell. You can hit those units that have run. Ones that are a little bit more difficult, Mystic Shield, which I really like on Saurus Warriors, for that +1 to save, has a shorter range, but that's where the Astrolith kind of comes into play. So you're still talking 18 inches. 12 inches is still doable with the Warriors, but you do have to keep that in mind. If your Wizards aren't up close and you've moved your Warriors 10 inches in the hero phase, they might be out of range of your Mystic Shield. Hoarfrost, same thing. You're looking at 12 inches. We are able to apply an extra 6 inches of that, which really helps as we want to buff this stuff up. So those 4 spells I'm looking at on any of these Saurus units in Coalesce. Empowered Celestite, if you've got either Saurus Warriors or Agrodons to hit their weapons. Heavenly Frenzy for run and charge, Mystic Shield for an extra +1 to save, and then Hoarfrost to change one of the characteristics to that D3 roll. Usually you're looking for Rend, but on Agrodons, I kind of like it on to hit for the weapons. Some abilities here that I also like into this combination is the Slon's Gift of the Heavens. It has a short range, so it's a range of wholly within 12, but it allows a unit to fly and +1 to save versus shooting. So I really like this ability if I'm putting it on Agrodons or Kroxigor that I want to get over that screen and into something. On the Warriors, it can help if you're just trying to clog up their lines. But that +1 to save is also really good as you're layering these extra buffs on it. Mystic Shield for +1 to save. Gift of the Heavens, +1 to save versus shooting. If we're going to do any of the all-out defenses, you get another +1 to save. Warriors, if they're on an objective or in your home territory, they'll get another +1 to save. So you could have warriors at a +4 to save in shooting, +3 to save in melee. That makes them even harder to kill, which is just such a great block to throw into your enemy's line turn 1. We'll look at an example here in a second and show some pictures of how to make sure you keep that within range, because that range is short and it's not affected by the Astrolith because it's an ability, not a spell. And because it's on a hero and not your general, with Vengeful Defender, you can't have Slann as your general. It is only a range of 12. Your Star Priest staff, if you're taking a Skink Star Priest and you're wanting this buff here to add mortal wounds on 6s to wound, it does also have a range of Holy Within 12. And it happens in the hero phase. So it's after you've already done the start of hero phase moves. So keep that in mind as you're trying to keep those ranges. You're going to have to play both of those guys a little bit more aggressively, deploy them a little bit more aggressively into your lines. And then just shooting melee, all-out defense, always make sure you can do that unless you're going into a monster or something that shuts that off. So lots of good buffs there. We can buff up our units that are going to be going in. So let's take a look at an example here. You can see just some base deployments here. Oh, look at my my objectives here. I got some new objectives. I think those are from Gray Matter Gaming. Got some of that mouse pad material objectives. I like those a lot better. Not nearly as shiny and reflective. Anyway, so here we go. We see some Kroxigor lined up on the line. This is a pretty standard deployment, 18 inches away from each other, with a nice little corridor right down the middle of the board. That doesn't always happen, but let's say here's an ideal situation. So we need to cross 18 inches. Normally, you're not going to be able to do that with just Kroxigor on their base move, but with all these tricks, we can do that. So we see our first movement of 5 inches as they're moving away. They're still within range of the Astrolith, who's right here in that middle right here, Astrolith. They're still wholly within 12 of him, so they get their second move. And you see their second move. Now they've moved 10 inches in the hero phase. Because of the far distance of this Starseer spellcasting, they're still within 18 for his, Heavenly Frenzy, or still at this range, they're still within range of like Mystic Shield if you want to cast Mystic Shield on them, since we have the extra +6 inches. Then their movement phase, they get to move in the movement phase. You don't even have to run them here. But one of the nice things, if you do have a Slann in your list and you've given them the fly and +1 to save versus shooting, if they make a good charge off of this, they can go over the top and end up into those, juicy bits of the opponent's army, into those heroes that they've been trying to protect. And so that's one of the things I like about being able to fly. You can jump over those screens that they have set up. If they have their set up the screen to block you, you're going to be able to fly over the top of them and get into something that they don't want you into. So I really like that ability from the Slann. The same thing happens for the Agrodons. They're just way faster. They can get to it just about anywhere they want to. One of the things that we need to keep in mind if we're using Saurus Warriors for this trick, here I've got a block of 30, and I want to make sure and keep my ranges here. So when I lined up, everybody's going to be wholly within 12 of the Astrolith, who's my general. He's right here. And my Slann. It's not as important for the Slann right on deployment, but you do want him to be up as far as he can, but not within danger in case they have to take turn 1. So after first movement, actually this was after 2 movements, it looks like, both the Vengeful Defenders, and you want to make sure that they're wholly within 12 of the Slann. So that's why they're kind of at an angle here. They're wholly within 12 of that Slann so that he can still give them +1 to save versus shooting and flying keyword there. So just keep that in mind. You're not going to end up with quite as much range as you wanted. Here's kind of that 10-inch mark. But once you get that ability off, if you get Heavenly Frenzy off, you're not too worried about that extra, half an inch or inch on those guys. Because if you do get off Heavenly Frenzy, they're going to run as far as you want them to anyway. Here, they're outside of 3 of that unit, and they're going to be able to go all the way in. So that unit of warriors there, as when we make that charge, we don't even have to make that charge if we don't want to. If we don't want to fight whatever they've got there, you're touching their objective. You get +1 to save for touching an objective for warriors. So they're going to be at a 3-up save. You're going to have Mystic Shield on them. So that's +2. You're going to all-out defense them. That's +3. And then you're going to have the +1 to save versus shooting from the Slon. So that's a +4 to save and shooting. And then we're probably going to pop the ward save on them from the Starseer in this turn. Because if we get double turned, they're still going to have to deal with 60 wounds, -1 damage, +4 to save with a 5-up ward. Just absolutely horrendous to have to deal with that right in front of your lines. And the next thing is, you could still load up another unit to go in again. Let's say you have 6 Agrodons or 12 Agrodons waiting in reserve. You can load them up and send them off to do the same thing on the next turn or two. So once you've sent off that warriors and had some fun with them, you've still got another round in the chamber to load up and send off. So a very fun use of Vengeful Defender. Being able to pop it twice, to me, opens up Saurus Warriors and Kroxigor a lot more to make them a little bit more viable than how they have been before. I realized that I could play Vengeful Defender twice. So hopefully this is helpful. Maybe this will make you want to run some Warriors or some Kroxigor. I know my next tournament, I'm gonna be throwing some Warriors right down the throat of my opponent. So it's gonna be fun for me. All right, guys. We'll see y'all next time.